Hi, I'm Angie Christensen from Simply Divine Eating, and today I'm going to do a demo for you on how to make sauerkraut and kimchi. These are the most used fermented foods worldwide. Cabbage has so many good probiotics naturally growing on it that it is fermented in every culture all over the world, and it really can be done really easy. These are ferments that are used kind of like a condiment. They're not something you sit down and eat a bite of, but added to other foods, they add a wonderful acidity and you get so much probiotic benefit from this. Sauerkraut has been studied to have 100 times more probiotics than a capsule. So this is incredibly valuable to have sitting in your fridge. So sauerkraut and kimchi are cousins. Sauerkraut is the European version of fermenting our cabbage, and kimchi is the Asian version of fermenting cabbage. So they're just done with slightly different types of cabbage, and they're done with slightly different seasonings. So let's show you how to do this. Let's start with our kimchi. So this is Napa cabbage. This is Asian cabbage. You'll notice it looks a little different than the cabbage that we're used to, but it has some really interesting texture to it. If we cut it open, it's amazing. It's got this beautiful leafy top and a really, really dense bottom. And that provides a lot of textural difference in the kimchi that's really, really nice. So the first step in any fermenting of cabbage is we need to get the water out of the cabbage. Cabbage has tons of water inside it, and we want to extract that water for the fermentation process. So with kimchi, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in quarters and just take out the core like this. Now, if you do a really traditional kimchi, what you do now is you start working in between these leaves, and the cabbage is even left in really, really big chunks. But I have found a way to make it just a little bit easier. Because usually when you eat this, you're going to cut it up anyway, right? So if we do that now, and we cut this each quarter into another quarter, and then we're just going to dice it like this. And then we're going to take this and put it on our cookie sheet. And we've got really different textures of cabbage that are fun here. You've got the beautiful leafy part and these really nice crunchy bottoms that will be together in the kimchi. So we're going to finish dicing those up. Hey. And we're just going to sprinkle our salt onto the cabbage. I've got this is about 2 pounds of cabbage I've got diced up here. Now, what's going to happen is we are going to just leave this for a couple of hours. This is left for a couple of hours. You can just gently toss it, and over time it is going to shed, probably this much will shed like a half a cup or even more of water. And so here's some that is finished. And you will notice this has, so if you want to think about it, this is 2 cups right here. This is or about 2 pounds of cabbage. This is 5 pounds of cabbage. That's how much it shrinks down as that water comes out of the cabbage. So when it's finished, you can see this is wilted, it's soft, and it's very, very wet. And we've drained off all the excess water that we could, and it's still very, very moist, and that's going to provide plenty of water for this to ferment. The other ingredients of kimchi are daikon radish. These are the super long radishes that you find in an Asian grocery store or even some regular grocery stores now. And I have just shredded that into kind of matchstick size. And we're going to mix that daikon radish in. We're going to mix in some scallions or green onions that have been just chopped into 2-inch pieces. We've got here. And now we're going to mix all of that up. The cabbage has a really mild flavor. The daikon provides kind of a spicy flavor. You've got the oniony flavor from the scallions. And then we add our red pepper paste. Now, this red pepper paste is made from, so the red pepper paste is made from just this Korean hot pepper. You can get this in any Asian grocery store. You can get it on Amazon, but you're looking for Korean chili powder or Korean hot pepper paste. And then we have taken that powder and we've mixed it with ginger and onions and some water and some fish sauce. And this is what provides the flavor for the kimchi, okay? And this is a get your hands dirty kind of thing. Bring your kids in, they'll love to be part of this, okay? Now we are just going to mix this in, and you have total control over how hot you make this by how much of the spicy sauce that you mix in, and we're just gonna knead it all up. You can smell that pepper. It's got such an amazing smell. In Asia, especially in Korea, kimchi is eaten as a condiment with every meal. They still have fermented food with every meal. And if you're trying to improve your health, that is what you want to do. Even just 1 spoonful of fermented food with every meal will help you digest your meals better. It'll boost your immune system. It'll boost your mental health, everything by just adding 1 spoonful as a condiment to every meal. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of that in there. Okay, and then all we have to do is fill our jars. Stuff it in there as tightly as you can. So we'll fill it a handful at a time. And then we are going to press it down to get that water to come up and cover, because we don't want any oxygen bubbles in there. We want to get this so that it's liquid filled. So now I'm just going to press. You see all that liquid bubble up? Just press it down until the liquid has come to the top, and then we'll finish filling that. And we just fill up to the neck of the jar. And you can even just take a paper towel here, clean the neck of your jar off, close the lid, and that's all there is to it. Nature will do all the rest of the work for you. And kimchi is sometimes fermented for as little as a week, but you can leave it as long as you want. And you will see this start to bubble. You will know that the ferment is active as you watch it bubble and as it pushes the gas out. And then once it's pushed all the gas out, these Phyto jars will seal. You don't have to burp this. You don't have to do anything to babysit it. You literally can just close the lid and you are done. And then just a spoonful of kimchi is amazing on a rice bowl as a condiment with your meats, even in a salad, anything you want to do to get a little bit of that pungent and spicy bite and get your probiotics at the same time. So now let's show you how to do this with sauerkraut. For those of you who may not want the spicy kimchi, you can get all the same benefits from doing sauerkraut with our regular cabbage. Okay, so I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a traditional sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is the most common fermented food, and some people love it and some people don't. But if you think you don't like sauerkraut, I would suggest try making it yourself and tasting it, because it's not the same as the stuff that you've bought in the store. And I have met a lot of people that have not liked sauerkraut when they've had commercial sauerkraut, and they do like it when they make it at home. So it is worth trying and seeing how you feel about it. So the basis of sauerkraut is just shredded cabbage. I'm into efficiency, so I just shredded it on the smallest, the thinnest blade on my food processor. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scale, because since this is done without adding a salt solution, in order to get our salt percentage right, we've got to weigh how much sauerkraut we have. This is the same process that we use for our kimchi, for our salsa. Anything where you're not adding a water solution, you're going to need to weigh your vegetables. So with my handy dandy scale here, where this pulls out, we're going to put the bowl on, zero out my scale with my bowl, and weigh our cabbage, okay? So here in my bowl, I have exactly 4 pounds of cabbage. That's very handy, okay? So we need to add our salt, and we want to add a teaspoon per pound. So 4 teaspoons of salt are going to go on this cabbage. And then I'm just going to take my hands and mix that in so that that salt gets distributed into the cabbage. And then we're going to wait. Because if we wait, nature's going to do some of the work for us, which I'm always a fan of. One of the other things you can do while you're waiting is go through and pull out any big pieces that you see. When you're doing fermenting, one of the things you want is you want everything that you're making to be roughly the same size so that it ferments at the same rate. So when you're doing pickles, you can have any size pickles you want. You can do pickle spears, you can do pickle slices, you can do whole pickles, as long as everything in the jar is the same. You want it to be uniform. So when we shred our cabbage, just because of the nature of cabbage, you end up with some of these big pieces. So I can go through and do a little bit of removal of any super big pieces that I see. Is this essential? No, it will probably be just fine without. But if for texture and fermenting purposes, you want to be a little more thorough, you can go through and get rid of some of those pieces. So we're going to let this sit for 10 to 15 minutes to let the cabbage wilt. The water will start to come out of it, and then we'll be able to put it into our jars. Okay, so we've waited about 10 minutes, and if you can see, it's starting to shrink down a little bit. It's moist on top. You can see it's kind of shiny. So now we're going to speed it up a little bit by pounding. Now this is a great way to get your kids involved, a great way to burn off some frustrations. And we are going to smash this. This is just a flat end rolling pin that I love to use. You can use your fists too if you want. And we're going to pound it to help release more of the water from this cabbage. The salt has started to pull it out, but now we're going to finish that. And we're just going to whack this. Okay, so you can see we've already decreased it by about 1/3. We'll keep going. All right, so we've done that for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. And you can see how much that has shrunk down in size. So now we're ready to start filling our jar. Now regular sauerkraut is just plain. It's just cabbage and salt, but spices don't change fermenting. You can add any flavor you want. Caraway seeds are really popular. You can even add like Italian seasonings, dill, anything you like. you can add. And then we're going to start putting this into our jar, but we're going to keep pounding as we go because we need the water level to rise all the way up the jar. And this is where these rolling pins are so handy. So I'm going to press this down as hard as I can. And if you can see, when I press, the water rises above the level of the cabbage. And that's how I know I'm getting it, that we've pounded it enough, is when we can get the water level up higher than the level of the cabbage. And then we just do that again. And then we press until the water is higher than the cabbage. And repeat. All right, so now you can see when I press, the water level is all the way up to the neck of the jar. So that's where I'm going to stop. Just clean off any pieces of cabbage that might get in the way of it sealing. And that is it. So now we close the lid. And that's all the work that takes. So even with waiting 10 minutes for that to shrink down, adding our pounding and everything, that process of putting a jar full of sauerkraut together is less than a half an hour. It takes less than 30 minutes. Same with our kimchi. Less than 30 minutes, once you've assembled your ingredients, you can put together a jar of fermented food. And then here you have, for free, hundreds of times more probiotics than you can get from any other source. And even the kimchi is going to have different probiotics than the sauerkraut has. And sauerkraut will have different ones than pickles. And so the more different types of fermented food that you can eat, the more you're building up those 200 different types of bacteria that you need in your gut. And the good news with that too is if there's one you don't like, totally fine. Try some others and find some that you like, because there are so many different fermented foods that everyone can find some that they like and start getting all of those probiotic benefits. And it's super easy, less than a half an hour from start to finish.